either going to break down or you're going to have a much bigger issue that costs a lot more money than had you just fixed it from the beginning. The same way that when we see a signal on a car flash, it leads us to a mechanic. When we see these signals within us and we actually take note of them, the path to healing them or getting them right or bettering ourselves and improving ourselves will open up. Hi guys, welcome to You Are Unlocked, a place to help you unlock who you really are in a way that's integrated and holistic. My name's Yuna and I'm so glad you're here. So, on a journey of going from where we currently are to where we want to be in our dream life, or where we want the world to be and the change that we want to see in the world, there's often quite a big difference between the two. And one of the big steps that's needed to get from where we are to where we want to be is often an awareness of where we currently are. Because if we don't know where we currently are, it's hard to start to map the trail to where we want to be, because we don't even have a sense of direction for what needs to change in our life. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. How awareness, self-awareness, can be one of the big first steps in us making that journey into changing our life into what we want it to be. I googled what is awareness, and it said that awareness is a knowledge or a perception of a situation. And that's what we want to cultivate within our conscious mind, the knowledge and awareness of our situations, our weaknesses, our issues, our things that are holding us back from experiencing what we want to experience in life and in the world around us. And this is really important because when we become aware of these things that are holding us back, it naturally leads us to finding a solution for those things. And that's why it's such an important first step. And I like to illustrate this with the example of a car. If you have a car and a warning signal comes up saying that your car needs attention or there's an issue that needs to be addressed, when that warning signal comes up and it gives you the awareness of the issue in the car, it naturally then leads you to go and find a solution, whether you find a mechanic or you go to a garage for it to get fixed, or you maybe go online to search up a solution and then you fix your car. And then you can go about your journey or go about the normal things that you do in your day-to-day life. That's what we want to cultivate internally within us. We want to become aware of our signals that are going off, whether in our body, our mind, our intellect, our weaknesses in our day-to-day life. And then we want to go ahead and fix them so that we can continue on our journey through life. And in the same way that if a signal was to go off in your car and then you were to see it and then you were to think, actually, I don't really want to pay attention to that. I'm just going to stick a bit of cardboard on top of that and act like it's not there and continue on my journey nonetheless. Usually, eventually, your car is either going to break down or you're going to have a much bigger issue that costs a lot more money than had you just fixed it from the beginning when that initial signal went off. And I think that's the same within our lives. So that's why I think that self-awareness in our conscious mind is a really important thing. And also, so I guess sometimes people hold back from digging into these signals that they see in their life because they think that, oh, well, if I acknowledge all my issues consciously, then I'm just going to feel overwhelmed and like I have a bunch of problems that I have no idea how to deal with it. But I want to encourage you and us in that the same way that when we see a signal on a car flash, it leads us to a mechanic. When we see these signals within us and we actually take note of them, the path to healing them or getting them right or bettering ourselves and improving ourselves will open up. It's really about where you put your attention and your focus. If you see them and you think to yourself, okay, this is here, but I'm going to change that, and that can change, the path to it changing into what you want it to be will start to open up. And I've had conversations about self-awareness with different people in my life, and something that sometimes comes up is that people think that they have no level of self-awareness, that yes, it would be great if I could work on all my issues, but I just have no self-awareness. Therefore, I don't know my issues. Therefore, I can't work on them. Therefore, I'm stuck, is kind of how the conversation goes down. But I want to debunk that. I want to take that label of we have no self-awareness off of us, because we all do. We all have signals and signs constantly going off in our mind, our emotions, our body, our gut, that are showing us different things about ourselves, but it's learning to recognize it as a signal. Maybe because we haven't ever called it a signal before, we don't know that it is a signal. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of signals in our bodies, our minds, and our emotions. Body self-awareness signals could be things like exhaustion, constant tiredness. It could be things like being unable to breathe, feeling anxiety in different parts of your body, like your stomach. When some people get really anxious, they feel a lot of anxiety in their stomachs. Other body signals could be things like developing stress spots. So when some people get very stressed out over a long period of time, they start to get spots on different places in their body, and that's a body signal, your body trying to tell you something. But these are just signs and signals that we recognize as something's not running quite optimally. And then mind and emotion body signals can be things like excessive negative self-talk that's constant, or pervasive thoughts all the time. Or it could be things like extended periods of sadness and depression, overwhelming anxiety. These sorts of things, I'm sure you can think of more, can be signs that our mind and our emotion are trying to tell us there's something within us that we need to tweak a little bit, and that needs attention focused on it so that it can run at a more optimal level. And I'm not trying to call these different things bad or put the label bad on them or put a term of judgment over them. It's just a signal, the same way that when a signal goes off in a car, you don't call that signal bad, you actually call it useful because it's leading you to finding a solution. So when we see these different signals go off in our body, our mind, our emotions, let's not instantly call them bad, because when we put those labels of bad on them, those labels also attach to ourselves, and then we start to call ourselves bad because we are the ones that are holding those emotions. And it's ourselves, our bodies, our minds that are presenting those signals to us. So then we get caught in this cycle of, oh, what I'm feeling is bad, or what my body is experiencing is bad, and I'm also bad because I'm the one that's feeling and experiencing them. But rather, let's just look at it and change our perception to, oh, okay, something's not quite as I would want it to be right now, and I'm really grateful to my mind, my body, my emotions for showing me that. And let's take a deeper look and try and find the path in order to healing that. But I also want to acknowledge the fact that sometimes, or maybe often, there's multiple signals going off at one time or simultaneously, and it can feel quite overwhelming and hard to decipher what they are, either because they're all happening at once, or they've happened for such an extended period of time that it's just our normal and we don't even realize that they're signals anymore. We just think that that's the baseline standard of normal life. So I do realize that that is a real difficult thing to try and work through and understand all the different layers that can happen simultaneously. Or on the other end, maybe we feel numb and completely desensitized to everything. So we actually genuinely do not have any signals going off at all. But that within itself, numbness, desensitization, is a signal and a sign. That's not really what we're going to go into during this talk, but maybe on a future video, we'll go into numbness and how you can start to unnumb yourself and start to feel again and recognize things and then work through whatever comes up. So I thought I'd just give you an example of some signs and signals that used to come up in my life about 4 or 5 years ago. And then you can think, do I have any of these, or what different signals are coming up in my life, or even if they're not mind body related, maybe you have different signals coming up in different aspects of your life. So in your business or in your career or your school life, you can look to what are some professional signals that are coming up that are holding me back from moving to that next level. Back to my example, about 4 or 5 years ago, I would wake up in the morning and one of the first feelings that I would feel is anxiety. I would feel it I would usually think, I guess it was all over. I would have anxious thoughts, but I would also feel it in my body. And then after about 60 seconds, I would feel a very painful, anxious feeling in my stomach, which then started to feel like stomach ulcers after a couple more minutes. And that was my body and my emotions giving me signs and signals. And then I would get up and I would go straight to the kitchen to make myself some tea mixed with coffee. Yes, both. Because I was exhausted. So I had just woken up from about 8 hours of sleep, and I would go and make myself a extremely caffeinated drink, even though I should have felt energized from the night before. But that was another sign and signal in my body telling me that there's something that needs to be paid attention to. But at the time, I had no self-awareness that these were signs and signals. This is just the way that I would live my life and kind of go about my day, and I found it very normal. But it's bringing that awareness and calling it a sign and signal eventually that helped me start to change it. So let's really cultivate awareness this week. And if you don't even know where to start with that, don't worry. I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can start to cultivate awareness and help you start to recognize the different signals going off within you. Firstly, you can, when you first wake up in the morning, try and capture what is the emotion that I first feel the first thing in the morning, or what is the first thought that comes into my head in the morning, and then write that down. So you could keep a notepad and pen by your bed so that you can write that down, or on your phone. That might be a lot easier because people usually grab their phones as one of the first things in the morning. You can type that down on your phone. And then again in the evening, just before you go to sleep, what are one of the last thoughts that you think before you go to sleep, or what emotion do you usually feel before falling asleep? Capture that on a piece of paper or on your pen. If you do that all throughout the week, then take a look back and see if the same thing is coming up every single morning and evening. And if it is, that probably is a sign or a signal. Or another thing that you can do is that you can sit down and meditate. So you can just take a couple of deep breaths whilst you're sitting down, just to get your body and your mind and your emotions to a calm state, or a meditative state, whatever you want to call it, but basically just calming yourself all the way down. And then run your consciousness, so take your thoughts throughout each part of your body really slowly. So from your head all the way down, through your neck, your chest, your arms, your legs, all the way down to your feet. And try and take it at a really slow pace. And as you're taking your thoughts or your consciousness all throughout your body like that, see if you start to feel any pain in certain parts of your body, or you have any thoughts associated with certain parts of your body. And those thoughts or pains or aches can be signs and signals of where you're currently at. Or what you can do is just start to think about, what are some of the things that I automatically do without even thinking. So they've become so much of a habit that they're just my lifestyle and they're a normal part of my day, but really they're learned behavior that I started at one point in time and then it's just continued going forward. So maybe every single day, do you just grab a cup of coffee as an automatic behavior? because it's automatic, but it did start because of a reason. Did it start because of exhaustion? Did it start because of maybe an overwhelming amount of workload? And that can be a sign and a signal that we've learned not to recognize anymore, and it's kind of gone into the subconscious mind because we constantly do it, but we're now bringing that back up into the conscious mind. So you can try all of those things, and if you still feel like I'm getting nothing, you can ask the people around you, because the people who are closest to us and see us on a regular basis often can tell us and show us things about ourselves that we're completely unaware of. So once you've recognized your sign and signal, I would love it if you were to comment down below, if you feel comfortable, what those signs and signals are, or what your experience has been in cultivating self-awareness, because it's really encouraging when we all share where we're at, how it's going, what we're finding out about ourselves, how we're becoming more self-aware, so that we realize that, hey, we're actually all pretty much on similar journeys, even though they look a little bit different, and people really do struggle with the same things. There's nothing really new under the sun, but it's great when we're all working to move forward in this direction together. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It's been a pleasure to have shared this small part of your journey with you.